Hi, I'm Paula Pascual, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card using Art Inspirations Stamps by Wensdimade, and of course this technique that kind of breaks up the pattern with color and as well as embossing powders. So here is how I made it. Today I'm going to show you a simple card, but kind of very effective using Art Inspirations, the beautiful Wensdimade collection. Now this is the second release, and I'm going to be using this stamp already. I have it on my stamping platform. Now also I'm going to use some Zucchini inks that I adore. It's Versafine Clear in Charming Pink and Chianti, and then I'm going to use some Wensdimade to emboss with embossing powders from Wow, and coloring in with Filth and Martins, the watercolor brush pens, which I adore. Right, so first thing we are going to do is cut our pieces of cards to be the same size. It doesn't matter what size it is as long as the stamp fits. In this case, our A6 pieces of card is super smooth, pink frog crafts, or any super smooth that will give you a good watercoloring and embossing impression as well. Now, what I have done already is it's important to start, or it helps to start with same pieces of card, because this technique can then go into different ways. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is put my magnets into here, so that kind of secures the cardstock to the base. One top tape with stamp platforms, and I keep seeing people not doing this, and it's very important. Unless you have to put the paper anywhere because the stamp is offset, try to get into the habit of lining your piece of card with one of the L's here or here. Why? Because if the paper moves a little bit, you can position it perfectly. If you have it in the middle, you won't. So that's a top tip of using any stamp platform that you may have. Right, so we're going to start with the lightest color just because it's easier to do it that way. So I'm kind of inking, and I'm going to put it like that so you can see what I'm doing. I'm inking by dabbing the ink pad through. Now, because I'm using a stamp platform, I don't need to be excessive with the ink, not that you should ever be, but it kind of allows me to make sure that if I kind of don't get enough ink, I can go a second time. Hence why it's kind of good idea to use the L on the stamping platform, whichever company you're using. Some of them are on the hinge side, some of them like this one are on the opposite side. Whichever stamping platform you're having, it either has a ridge or an L. When I prefer an L because that makes sure that it's squared, and that means that I can reposition the paper should the magnets not hold perfectly. I'm gonna look at that. Just one go. You can see here I have messed a little bit, so I can go a second time, and hence why stamping platforms are so good. Since I had my first stamping platform, I very rarely stamp without it. Now that means that I could go and do a degradation of color if I wish to do it as well. Right, I'm going to lift it up, and there I have it. Now what I'm going to do, because this is Versafine Clear, so it's a hybrid ink, but it is a pigment ink, which means oil based as well. So it means that it has got a little bit of it's a fast drying pigment ink, but it still is it has got enough time for me to emboss it. So now I have gone in with a clear regular clear embossing powder from Wow. Obviously there are others ones available. Wow is one of my favorite. And here I have got it, and I'm going to put it a little bit closer so you can see the glossness. I have done one before without the embossing powder, so you could see the color, the difference in tonality. By embossing it, you have got a deeper color, but also that gloss effect. Now, if you want to color in, it's so much easier, as you may know, because it holds that thermographic powder, which is what embossing powder is, kind of creates like these little ridges, and it's brilliant for it. But even like this, you can see that there is a slightly deeper tone when you clear embossing. Now then I'm going to take another piece of super smooth, and again I'm going to put the magnets as close to the edge as possible, and I'm going to go in. I'm going to clean my stamp with a piece of cloth that I have got here, and I'm gonna go with Chianti, which is the beautiful darker, I think it's kind of a aubergine color more than a Chianti. Chianti is a little bit more red, but that's the color that it says Sukinico has given it, so that's the color give. And again, you don't have to do that much pressure. If you're using an embossing and a stamping platform, you can see that here just want to do a little bit more towards the top to have a deeper tone. And then I have got perfect. Now I'm gonna leave that one in here as it is, and I'm gonna let it sit on the side for a couple of minutes, because I do want to make sure that it's completely dry. And remember, you know, it does take a few seconds for it to dry. Right, one important thing, we are gonna now emboss with Versamark. The reason is because it's one of my go-to embossing pads. Wow, that's a beautiful one as well. So any clear embossing pads or watermark pads will work for this technique. I have got two, and the reason is I want to show you how it comes to you completely like this. It's a sticky ink. And then you have got this, I have got the second one, or an older one, because that's what happens. It picks up a lot of color that may be on your stamp. Hence what I recommend for this this bed of the card or the technique, to just make sure that you clean the stamp as well as possible. Now, because I'm going to be using an opaque embossing pad, it doesn't really, embossing powder rather, it doesn't really matter if I transfer some of that color to the paper or cards. So I'm not that bothered this time, but if I was going to do a kind of a clear embossing powder onto white, I would most definitely clean it with an cleaning products such as the Sukinico. I think Sukinico has got a really excellent cleaner, not the Stay-On cleaner. Please do not use a Stay-On cleaner, but you can use a stamp cleaner, which is one that will work well on you know, on clear stamp pads, clear stamps, as well as regular ones, red rubber or gray rubber. Right, so I'm gonna use the one that it wasn't was a little bit dirty. And again, I haven't moved my stamp one single time. It has been in the same place. All my card has been cut to the same size. So I'm just gonna put it in here and dab my ink pad all over the stamp, and then move that away a little bit. Now this is a very sticky ink, so it might pull a little bit the paper, but I should not worry about this. Should be fine. Now see, there is a little bit of an area there, so I can go in and put it back in there. Now, if you are an stamper and embosser, you will see that I haven't used an anti-static hat. And you know what, every single time I think, oh, I need to use one, and I always forget. I do recommend it. It's just that I'm one of these crafters that is, well, do as I say, not as I do, because I just forget to use it. But things like this is what avoids it. And of course in here it doesn't matter because we are going to trim that, but here it would matter if you want a very delicate you know, effect. By the way, this gold that I'm using is actually from Wow as well, and it's metallic brass regular. So it's not gold, but metallic brass. Now here, when it comes to the embossing, there are many embossing tools available. I tend to use this one because it's a little bit quieter for videos. Wow do a 2-speed one that is really good. There are others available as well, so just choose whichever. If you don't have one, I would just strongly recommend to get one, because it's just the best thing to emboss. Well, and then there are other things that you can do, and it's just one of those tools that it's just worth it. Right, so then there is of course the, do I do it from the top, do I emboss it from the top, do I emboss from the bottom? Well, there are 3 schools of thoughts. There is the ones who apply the heat from the bottom, which is what Wow recommends, because that has got a more even distribution of heat, so you will get a smoother finish. Then there is the other school of thought from a paper point of view, that if you do it from the bottom, chances are you can burn the paper and wobble beyond repair without this. It's not that big a deal because it's just a piece of paper, but that can happen. And then there is the ones like myself that is like I do as I feel like without any reason. I tend to do it from the top, but it's not like I kind of think too much about it. You can see how beautiful this stamp is. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? I absolutely adore it. I adore it because also you have got in the same set, you have got the large one, and then you have got elements into here, including quirky sentiments in here as well. And you have got the birds and large are mirrored. You have got flowers, so you can create pattern building, which is amazing. Right, so we have got this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my film marking. I do have got the 4 sets, which I strongly recommend. Yellows, I have them separately because they don't fit in here, but I need to set it. By the way, deflector storage, it's amazing. So I have got them here. I put the stickers myself with just paper because that's the way I always have done it. Because it's a process that allows me, by doing that, to know exactly which colors I have got rather than putting the stickers that come with set number 4. Right, so I have got this, and I've taken 2 colors. I cannot tell you which ones they are or from which sets they are because I blend them all together. I recommend when you have got something like this to go for all of them, because then you have got the biggest range in them. Now, what I love about these watercolor markers is, first of all, the colors. Beautiful colors, intense colors, subtle colors, you have them all. Then I love that nylon brush. You can see nylon brush, which is actually a proper brush. It's not a brush tip, it's it's a brush, and if you know what I mean. Now I love it because it's soft, but also it gives you the finest of lines. It's just so fine pointed. I not gonna lie, I have got from other manufacturers and I love them as well, but these ones are my go-to for detail work. I mean, you can see how I'm going to the points in there as in there really deeply, and look at the richness of these colors as well. Strongly recommend them. It's one of those ones that I love color and I love markers, and I have got loads of different ones. I love my carrying ones as well, but they are different markers. Those ones are a brush, they are a tip that is solid, so they have got different situations. That's more of a different effect. For detail work, these ones are the ones that I go to. Look how gorgeous I look. I've gone ahead and I have already colored one up, and you will see that I have only colored that. That's for a reason. Right, next step. Got here the 3 ones. So I have got the Chianti, the Charming Pink, and the Gold embossing powder, or rather brass embossing powder there. Now what I'm going to do, if you can see, is they have been stamped on the same place because I use a stamping platform on the same size card. Now I'm going to put them all together, and actually I'm going to keep that one aside. Why? 2 reasons. This one is going to be at the bottom of it, so it doesn't need to be trimmed, but you could trim it as well if you wanted to save it for if you wanted to make 3 proper cards, but that's not as important. Now these ones I'm just gonna randomly, okay, so then just make sure. Can you see that this one I actually didn't cut it as well as I thought I did, but don't worry because we are going to show a way around it. So then kind of just go in, and for instance in here I'm going to just cut it that way, and then I'm going to go in like more or less. I know that flower more or less is in there, so I'm just going to go in here. And then I'm gonna go in here, and just as you can see, I'm not being that careful. Now I kind of wanted that flower to be in the top rather than this, so I'm gonna go in there. That flower is within, right? Okay, so you have got these bits in here. Now the idea is that these ones are gonna be the one at the bottom. Now I'm gonna take maybe the lighter one and put it on the top. Now here is the question of that's the one that I have got here, sorry, bottom, that one. And then you will be able to position it theoretically perfectly like that, so you are adding color without having to color that much. So then you kind of go in here, and that is, I believe that's the one. So then you position it, that's a bit different. There, what is this, what is that one going? No, that's a little bit higher. So this is kind of a, oh, that's what is that one? It's funny, isn't it, when you kind of don't lose the track of where things are. There, I think it's there. Is it there? No, that's the one, like here. So then, there, that's what I done. And then you can see here that that's, oh, I have it upside down. So this is gonna be my card in here. It's gonna have that sort of a structure. I'm actually doubting if you can then go in and thinking, I actually like it better this way. I'm not sure actually. In this case, I have cut them all together, but you can cut them all individually in different ways, and they kind of all will match somehow. I think like that. I do like this. I like the brokenness. I like kind of it comes even. And then of course you have got enough in here to create another card if you want it, because then you can just use these bits in here to create another card, which I think is adorable as well. So you have got those bits in here, and then you could do something like that. So you have got like a puzzle, creating a 2-for-1 or even a 3-for-1, because then you have got that bit as well. So let me assemble them and put it into card. And that is the card. Now this is a technique, you can use this for other options in here, so you have got all those beautiful things. I just like this technique because it allows you to make more than one card at once. And of course you have got sentiments in here that you could say a little bit quirky. Oh, shall we do that? Shall we do a little bit of quirky and then just trim it down, and then we can see how it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stamp it with a an acrylic block, because that's just, if I mess it up I can just go in. And I'm gonna go with Chianti, which is the purpley color, and tend to go from the bottom, and then you can blot it. I like to, I don't really blot that much, but for this it's just to make sure that it's dry. Again, my trimmer, and then it's kind of going in, and a little bit okay, that could go in here. I like that, a little bit quirky. Perfect. So I'm gonna go in with my scissors, and if it was a little bit longer, which I should have done, I could have done like a proper side to side, but because I haven't, then you can just put it in here. There. I like it like this, and I'm going to put it flat into here. Now because I have got embossing powder, probably would put double-sided tape, because that kind of works better, but I'm just gonna go for glue, and that should hold it. And yeah, you have cards that's a little bit quirky. Well, I hope you have liked these cards. Remember, all the materials are available on Hachanda's website. Phil Martin's watercolor pens, Chicaniko ink, Versafine Claire, and of course the gorgeous stamps from Art Inspiration by Wensdimade, and wow, embossing powders, of course, and Phil Martin's glue as well. Do check it all out at Hachanda.